Have you ever been fined by your HOA Karen for something as stupid as having your American flag up one day too long? What if the same woman screaming about community standards was secretly depending on you to keep the entire neighborhood's security system and common areas running? Willow Creek Estates looked like the American dream on a postcard. Perfectly trimmed lawns, white picket fences gleaming under the Texas sun, kids riding bikes without a care. But scratch the surface and you'd find the real landlord. The Homeowners Association, run with an iron fist wrapped in pastel cardigans by one woman who made sure everyone knew she was just looking out for the community. Her name was Karen Whitaker, HOA president for 6 straight years, and she wore that title like a crown made of other people's misery. Nora Hayes lived at 142 Oak Lane, the house with the subtle solar panels and the American flag that somehow always seemed to be the wrong shade of red in Karen's eyes. Nora wasn't loud. She didn't blast music or let her trash cans sit out past noon. She was the neighbor who quietly fixed the community mailbox when it got smashed in last year's hailstorm. The one who showed up to every meeting with notes but never raised her voice. For 2 years, she'd been the invisible backbone keeping Willow Creek from falling apart. But Karen noticed everything. Especially when it came to Nora. Started small. A $75 fine for unauthorized holiday lights left up past January 15th. Nora had taken them down January 14th at 11:47 p.m. She had the time-stamped photos. Karen's email was polite poison. We must all adhere to the covenants, dear. It's not personal. It's about preserving property values for everyone. Nora paid it. Then came the $150 for grass measured at 2.7 inches instead of the sacred 2.5. Never mind that the community park grass was a shaggy mess because the HOA had budget issues. Karen smiled at the next block party, scarf fluttering like a victory flag, and told the ladies group, "Some people just don't understand sacrifice." Nora smiled back, dead-eyed, the same smile she'd perfected after the first 3 fines. Inside, something was starting to curdle. She documented every notice, every time-stamped photo, every passive-aggressive reply all email Karen blasted to the 187 homeowners. Because Nora knew where the bodies were buried. She was the one who had dug the trenches 2 years ago when a freak hailstorm turned the neighborhood into a war zone. Shattered windows, downed fences, the community security cameras fried, the automatic gates stuck open like an invitation to every opportunist in the county. The HOA board had frozen. Rules required 3 bids, 2 meetings, and a vote that would take 6 weeks. Residents were terrified. Karen stood at the emergency meeting in her best, concerned citizen pearls and said, "We must follow procedure, even in crisis. That's what separates us from chaos." Nora had stood up quietly in the back row. "I can fix it tomorrow," she said. "I have a licensed LLC, ARC Community Solutions. I'll front the contract with Evergreen Security and Grounds. They'll install top-tier cameras, smart gates, full landscaping maintenance for the common areas. I'll handle the billing through my entity until the board can reassign it properly. No delay." Karen had beamed that fake warm smile. Well, if Nora insists on helping, who are we to say no? As long as it's temporary. The board signed off in 8 minutes. Clause 14B was right there in black and white. This agreement remains valid under the vendor's legal entity unless formally reassigned in writing by all parties. They never reassigned it. They just kept paying Nora's LLC every quarter like clockwork, took credit for the pristine common areas at every open house, and pretended Nora was just another homeowner who needed correcting. Now, sitting at her kitchen table with the latest $500 fine for failure to obtain prior approval for new solar panel brackets, Nora opened the old contract folder on her laptop. The storm memories flooded back. She scrolled slowly, the way you read a love letter you already know ends badly. There it was, Clause 14B, untouched, unamended, gathering digital dust while Karen played queen. Evergreen Security and Grounds still routed every service ticket, every maintenance log, every camera feed straight to Nora's dashboard. The HOA board thought they owned the system. They didn't even own the password anymore. Nora leaned back, coffee gone cold, and felt that familiar calm settle over her. The same calm she'd felt when the last payroll glitch of fines hit her checking account. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was just done smiling. She started small. Quiet. The way smart people do when the rules are rigged. She cross-checked every fine against the covenants, every email timestamp, every neighborhood chat screenshot where Karen had subtly painted her as that difficult resident who questions authority. Nora saved it all in a folder labeled Receipts. Then she opened the Evergreen portal and saw the green status lights blinking peacefully. Cameras online, gates secure, lawns perfect, all because her LLC was still the legal vendor of record. Karen had no idea she was standing on a landmine she herself had signed. The next morning, Nora's phone buzzed with another neighborhood-wide email from Karen. Friendly reminder, friends, curb appeal is everyone's responsibility. We've noticed a few properties falling below standards. Let's keep Willow Creek the envy of the county. Attached was a photo of Nora's flag again. Angle slightly off according to some imaginary HOA ruler. The ladies' group chat lit up with thumbs-up emojis and, "You tell him, Karen." Nora stared at the screen, then typed one line in her private notes. Stage 1 complete. They still think I'm the problem. She closed the laptop, poured fresh coffee, and smiled for real this time, because tomorrow she was going to start pulling threads. Quietly, legally, irreversibly. And Karen Whitaker was about to learn what happens when the woman you've spent years fining and smearing decides the contract you forgot to read is the only thing keeping your little kingdom standing. By Wednesday, the fines had escalated from annoying to theatrical. A $300 notice for excessive driveway chalk drawings by minor children. Her niece had visited for exactly one afternoon and drawn a hopscotch grid that washed away in the next rain. Karen's accompanying note was a masterpiece of fake concern. We understand family is important, Nora, but the covenants exist for a reason. Perhaps a conversation about boundaries would help. Nora paid it again. Not because she agreed, but because fighting each one individually would have taken years and thousands in lawyer fees. She was playing the long game now. She spent the next week doing what she did best. Observing. She attended the monthly HOA board meeting in the community clubhouse, sitting in the back row with her notebook like a model citizen. Karen presided at the head table in a crisp white blouse, pearls shining, voice dripping honey as she announced, "We've had some complaints about selective enforcement, but I assure you, every violation is handled with love and fairness." The board members, mostly retired accountants and golf widows, nodded like bobbleheads. Nora raised her hand politely during public comments. "Just curious," she said, voice steady. "Has the board ever followed up on reassigning the Evergreen maintenance contract for my LLC? It's been 2 years since the storm." Karen's smile didn't even flicker. "Oh, Nora, sweetheart, we appreciate your help back then, but everything is running smoothly under board oversight. No need to complicate things." The room murmured agreement. No one asked why the oversight meant Karen's cousin got the snow removal side gig, while Nora's LLC carried the $200,000 annual load. That night, Nora sat in her car under the streetlight across from Karen's perfect colonial, watching the woman through the window as she poured wine and laughed on the phone, probably recounting how she'd put that Hayes woman in her place again. Nora didn't feel rage. She felt clarity. The kind that comes when you realize the bully's entire throne is built on a foundation you poured. She opened her laptop right there in the driver's seat and pulled up the Evergreen Liaison's contact. Ava? Sharp? No nonsense. The woman who had personally thanked Nora after every system upgrade. Quick housekeeping item. Nora typed in a draft email. Want to align vendor records with current operating structure? 5-minute call. She didn't send it yet. Timing was everything. Meanwhile, Karen's smear campaign hit warp speed. A new community update email went out titled, "Protecting Our Values." It didn't name Nora directly, but everyone knew. Certain residents continue to test the limits of our beautiful covenants. We must remember that rules protect us all from becoming just another rundown subdivision. The replies flooded in. Neighbors who used to wave at Nora now suddenly busy when she walked her dog. One even crossed the street. Nora saved every reply. Dark humor of the situation wasn't lost on her. The woman lecturing about values was the same one who had ignored 3 flood damage claims from elderly residents last year because The budget is tight. Nora started cross-checking the contract again at 2 a.m., the house silent except for the hum of her laptop fan. Clause 14B glowed on the screen like a neon sign in a dark alley. Still active, still hers. The service credentials, the camera feeds, the automated billing portal, everything still routed through Arc Community Solutions. The HOA had been paying her LLC for 24 months straight, taking credit at every realtor open house, while treating her like public enemy number one in her own neighborhood. She leaned back and whispered to the empty room. They never read past the first page, did they? The next morning, another fine arrived. $250 for non-approved planter color. Nora paid it without comment, then forwarded the receipt to her growing receipts folder. She could feel the pressure building, that delicious tension before the snap. Karen was getting bolder, drunk on power, convinced Nora would keep bending forever. But Nora wasn't bending. She was coiling. She scheduled the call with Ava for Friday. In the meantime, she walked the neighborhood at dusk, nodding politely to the same people who now avoided eye contact, mentally cataloging every cracked sidewalk, every overgrown common area hedge that only stayed perfect because her LLC paid the crews. She imagined Karen's face when the illusion finally shattered. It was going to be glorious, and not a single raised voice would be necessary. Friday afternoon, the call with Ava lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Nora had timed it. Just confirming the vendor of record for Willow Creek, she said casually. Some bored housekeeping on their end. Mind if I send over an updated agreement reflecting current legal structure? No changes to scope or pricing. Ava's reply was pure gold. Of course. You've always been the one who actually makes things work around here. Send it over and I'll get it signed by end of day. Nora spent the rest of the day doing what she did best, cleaning up other people's messes while quietly severing ties. She cloned the documentation portals, duplicated the automated billing pipeline, and transferred service credentials to new access points under Arc Community Solutions' private infrastructure. She'd built it modular on purpose years ago, like an architect who knew the client might turn on her someday. Everything was reversible. Everything was legal. Meanwhile, Karen was busy. A new violation notice hit Nora's mailbox Saturday morning. $400 for failure to remove political signage within 48 hours of election. The American flag again. Nora took a photo of the notice, added it to the folder, and smiled at the camera like she was posing for a yearbook. She could almost hear Karen's voice in her head. It's not personal, dear. Sunday, the neighborhood group chat exploded with Karen's latest masterpiece. A poll titled, "Should we consider stricter enforcement for repeat offenders?" The options were loaded. Nora didn't vote. She just screenshot everything and kept sipping her coffee. Monday morning, she hit send on the updated agreement to Ava. The PDF was identical in formatting to the original. Same fonts, same page numbers, same legal footer, so no one could claim it was a new document. The only change was one line at the top. Vendor of record Arc Community Solutions, LLC. Nora's LLC. She typed the shortest email of her life. Ava. As discussed, updated agreement attached. No changes to scope. Let me know if you need anything else. Nora. 10 minutes later, the reply came. Signed and looped in finance. Future invoices will route accordingly. You've made this transition seamless as always. Frankly, we've never understood why the board doesn't listen to you more. Nora didn't reply. She just closed the tab and exhaled slow, the way a diver breaks the surface after a long hold. The tectonic plate had shifted. Only she felt the rumble. Tuesday, the first cracks appeared. An automated system alert popped up on the HOA treasurer's dashboard. Billing portal now required new vendor approval. The treasurer, a sweet but clueless retiree named Margaret, forwarded it to Karen with a confused emoji. Karen's reply was instant. Ignore it. Probably a glitch. We'll handle it at the next meeting. Nora watched the Slack equivalent neighborhood board channel light up with passive-aggressive questions. She didn't answer any of them. She was too busy watching her own LLC dashboard turn green with new status updates. Wednesday, the real fun began. Evergreen's quarterly maintenance crew showed up as scheduled, But this time they handed the lead technician's tablet to Nora when she walked out to greet them. New protocol, ma'am. All work orders now route through ARC Community Solutions directly. The head guy shrugged. Boss said the contract updated. HOA still pays, but we answer to you now. Karen's car screeched into the community parking lot 10 minutes later, tires spitting gravel. She stormed toward the crew in heels that were never meant for actual walking. What is this? Who authorized changes? The technician just pointed politely at Nora. Ask the vendor of record. Karen's face went the color of cheap rose left in the sun. For the first time in 6 years, she had no scripted response. She spun toward Nora, voice syrupy but cracking at the edges. Nora, honey, there seems to be a misunderstanding. The board has always managed this contract. Nora met her eyes, calm as still water. Actually, Karen, Clause 14b says otherwise. Would you like me to email the board the full contract? I have it highlighted. Karen's pearls suddenly looked very tight around her neck. The crew kept working. The cameras stayed online. The lawns stayed perfect. But the power structure of Willow Creek Estates had just flipped upside down in broad daylight, and everyone on the block was about to feel the aftershocks. Karen Whitaker was about to learn that the quietest neighbors keep the best receipts. By Thursday, the entire board was in full meltdown mode. Karen called an emergency meeting for 7 p.m. in the clubhouse. Subject line: Urgent vendor issue. All members required. Nora received the invite at 6:45 while she was watering her roses. She declined politely with a single word: busy. Inside the clubhouse, the mood was pure panic, wearing business casual. Karen paced in front of the whiteboard, pearls swinging like a pendulum. This is clearly sabotage, she hissed. Nora has been difficult for years, and now she's trying to hold the neighborhood hostage. Margaret, the treasurer, wrung her hands. But the contract does say Clause 14b. Karen cut her off. We never intended for that to be permanent. It was an emergency measure. Outside, Nora sat on her porch with a glass of iced tea, watching the sun set over the perfectly manicured common area that her LLC still technically controlled. Her phone buzzed with texts from neighbors who had suddenly remembered her number. Hey, any idea what's going on with the board meeting? Heard there's an issue with the security system? She left them all on read. Friday morning, the first Real casualty hit. Evergreen sent a formal notice to the entire board. Effective immediately, all future service requests and billing will route through ARC Community Solutions. Please direct inquiries to Nora Hayes. This transition reflects internal compliance updates on our end and has already been executed per the governing agreement. No exclamation points, no warm regards, just cold, surgical precision. The group chat exploded. Karen tried to spin it. Friends, please remain calm. This is a simple paperwork issue we are resolving. But the replies weren't supportive anymore. One retired engineer typed, "Didn't Nora set that whole system up after the hailstorm? Why are we acting like she's the villain?" Another mom added, "My kids feel safer with those cameras. Can we not screw this up?" Karen's power was cracking faster than cheap drywall in a Texas summer. Nora spent the day doing normal things. Grocery shopping, waving at the same neighbors who now looked at her like she'd grown a second head. She stopped at the community mailbox and found 3 more violation notices rubber-banded together. She took a picture, added them to the folder, and dropped them straight into the shredder when she got home. The rules didn't apply anymore. Not to her. Saturday, Karen showed up at Nora's door unannounced, flanked by 2 board members like bodyguards. Her smile was strained enough to crack foundation. "Nora, we really need to talk about this misunderstanding. The community needs stability. Surely we can work something out." Nora leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the picture of relaxed. "Work something out? Like the way you worked out $3,800 in selective fines over the last 2 years? Or the way you worked out smearing me to the entire neighborhood?" Karen's voice dropped to a whisper. "This isn't personal." Nora laughed once, soft and dark. "You're right. It's not personal. It's contractual." She closed the door gently in Karen's face. Sunday, the security cameras started showing error codes on the board's dashboard. Nothing major, just enough to make everyone nervous. The automatic gate hesitated for 3 full seconds before opening. Parents began texting Nora directly, "Hey, any chance you can check on the system? The kids are at the park and the cameras are glitchy." Nora replied to each one personally. Polite, helpful, in control. Karen was losing the narrative and she knew it. At the emergency board meeting that night, leaked details reached Nora via 3 different sources. She reportedly slammed her fist on the table and shouted, "She can't do this." The board's lawyer, finally dragged in after 2 years of being ignored, had apparently read Clause 14b for the first time and gone very quiet. Nora slept like a baby. Monday morning, the final domino was ready to fall. The email hit every inbox at 9:12 a.m. like a precision strike. Subject line: confirmation of permanent vendor transition, Evergreen Security and Grounds. From the COO himself. Following internal legal review, we will be continuing all community services exclusively through ARC Community Solutions. Nora Hayes has been the operational lead on this relationship since inception and her team has our full confidence. Please consider this transition final. We also welcome introductions to other HOAs in the network who may benefit from similar services. Nora will be our primary point of contact moving forward. No CC to Karen. She wasn't even relevant anymore. The neighborhood group chat went nuclear. Residents who had been silent for 2 years suddenly found their voices. Wait, Nora's been running the security this whole time? Karen, you told us she was just being difficult. My property value depends on those cameras. Can we get an explanation? Karen tried one last desperate reply all. This is a misunderstanding. The board is reviewing all options. Please do not panic. The replies came fast and brutal. Even her most loyal supporters were cracking. One elderly couple who had received 3 flood damage denials typed, "Maybe the real problem wasn't Nora after all." Nora didn't reply to any of it. She was too busy onboarding her first new client. Ava had referred a neighboring subdivision that morning. The contract was already signed. $85,000 annual. Nuaga wadrama. Just clean work. By noon, the board had called another emergency session. This time, they invited Nora. She showed up 15 minutes late on purpose, wearing jeans and a simple blouse, carrying nothing but a single printed copy of the original contract with Clause 14b highlighted in yellow. She placed it gently on the table in front of Karen. The room was dead silent. Karen's voice came out higher than usual. "Nora, surely we can negotiate. The community needs unity." Nora looked her dead in the eye. "Unity? You spent 2 years finding me, slandering me, and treating me like I was the problem, while my LLC kept your precious neighborhood looking perfect. You never once said thank you. You never reassigned the contract because you assumed I'd always be here to be bullied. That ends today." One board member cleared his throat. Technically, she's right. Legally. Karen's face crumpled like cheap wrapping paper. For the first time in 6 years, she had no script, no pearls to hide behind, no fake smile to weaponize. She looked small, pathetic, human. Nora stood up. "I'm not shutting anything off. The services will continue for now. But the invoices will come through ARC Community Solutions at standard rates. And any future fines against my property will be reconsidered. Permanently." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Karen? The next time you want to lecture someone about community values, maybe read the contracts first." She walked out into the sunlight. The neighborhood felt different already. The fallout was swift and deeply satisfying. By Tuesday afternoon, 3 board members had resigned, citing personal reasons. Karen was stripped of her president title in an emergency vote, 12-1, with her own vote the lone holdout. The new board sent Nora a formal apology letter that read like it had been written by a lawyer on sedatives. She framed it. Neighbors who had crossed the street to avoid her now brought over casseroles with awkward smiles. "We had no idea," they mumbled. Karen made it sound like Nora accepted the casseroles politely and never brought up the past. She didn't need to. The receipts had done the talking. Her LLC dashboard was lighting up like a Christmas tree. 3 new HOAs in the county had reached out after word spread. Ava sent a bottle of champagne with a note. Told you they'd regret it. Nora opened it alone on her porch that Friday night, toasting the sunset and the quiet victory no one had seen coming. Karen's house went on the market 2 weeks later. She told everyone it was for family reasons, but the real estate sign in her yard might as well have read consequences. The flag she used to police so viciously now hung limp on her own porch, slightly crooked, and no one dared say a word. Nora kept the security system running flawlessly. The lawns stayed perfect. The gates opened smoothly. But now when residents had issues they called her directly, not the board. She charged fair rates and delivered faster service. Property values in Willow Creek actually rose. Turns out competent management without petty tyranny was good for the market. She never gloated, never posted a victory lap on social media. She simply lived her life in the house with the American flag that now flew exactly as long as she wanted it to. One evening a new neighbor moved in down the street, a young couple with a toddler. They stopped by with cookies and introduced themselves. The wife glanced nervously toward the old board meeting flyers still pinned on the community bulletin board. We heard there was drama with the HO and Nora smiled. The warm, genuine smile she hadn't used in years. There used to be. But things run a little differently now. The husband laughed. Good. We don't want any Karen nonsense. Nora raised her glass of iced tea in a quiet toast only she understood. Neither do I. Months passed and Willow Creek settled into a new rhythm. The new board actually read contracts before signing them. Fines dropped 90% because people stopped weaponizing rules. Residents started showing up at meetings with ideas instead of fear. Nora attended occasionally, not to fight, but to advise when asked. They listen now. Her business grew quietly but steadily. ARC Community Solutions picked up 2 more subdivisions. She hired 2 former Evergreen techs who were tired of corporate nonsense. The office was a small co-working space downtown with big windows and no one breathing down her neck about commission glitches. Karen's house sold to a retired teacher who immediately planted bright yellow flowers in the front bed. Exactly the color Karen had banned 2 years earlier. The irony tasted sweeter than any revenge plot. One afternoon Nora received a forwarded email from the new board president. It was from Karen. Short, stiff, and clearly painful to write. I hope the community is thriving. Best wishes. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just the bare minimum. Nora read it once, deleted it, and went back to designing the new SmartGate system for her latest client. Some people never learn. The real victory wasn't the money or the business growth. It was the quiet satisfaction of watching a bully lose her throne without ever raising her voice. It was knowing that the next time some power-hungry HOA president decided to pick on the quiet resident, maybe, just maybe, they'd think twice about the paperwork they never bothered to read. Nora stood on her porch that evening watching kids play in the common area under cameras that actually worked. The American flag waved gently in the breeze, exactly 48 inches off the ground, perfectly within code, and flying as long as she damn well pleased. The coffee tastes better these days. Not perfect, but honest. No burnt corporate regret. No passive-aggressive aftertaste. It's just coffee in a quiet house in a neighborhood that finally learned the difference between rules and respect. I still live at 142 Oak Lane. The flag still flies. The grass is still exactly 2.5 inches because I choose it to be, not because someone threatened to fine me into submission. ARC Community Solutions is thriving, serving 7 neighborhoods now, and every contract gets read cover to cover before anyone signs. Funny how that works when the vendor isn't being treated like an enemy. Karen moved to Florida. Last I heard she's running for president of a new HOA down there. Some people really never learn. But that's not my problem anymore. Here's the part no one tells you in these stories. Revenge isn't loud explosions or screaming matches. It's quiet paperwork and patience. It's documenting every slight until the weight of your own evidence buries them. It's remembering that the people who abuse power always assume everyone else is as sloppy as they are. So if you're watching this and your HOA Karen has been grinding you down with petty fines and fake concern, Hear me clearly. Document everything. Read every contract. And when the moment comes, don't yell. Just send the email. Calmly, legally, irreversibly. The rules only work when everyone, including the people who wrote them, has to follow them. Sometimes the quietest neighbor is the one holding the entire neighborhood together. And sometimes, just sometimes, that neighbor decides it's time to stop carrying dead weight. Thanks for listening. If this story hit a little too close to home, drop a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. What's the most ridiculous HOA fine you've ever gotten? I read every single one. Stay smart out there. And whatever you do, keep the receipts. Power without accountability always rots. The loudest rule enforcers are often the ones hiding the biggest violations. Stay patient, document everything, and remember, the system you helped build can be the one that sets you free. Choose integrity over revenge. The universe handles the rest.